Welcome to the Pillowfort Podcast, where we get cozy and talk about things. We watch...
Talk about movies.
Yeah.
Or shows.
Or whatever. Today, we are talking about the movie When Marnie Was There. And...
I was there.
You were there, all right.
When we watched that. I'm NeverPaint, by the way, and this is Asha AM. And subscribe to this channel to hear more of our anime and movie and show talks. Whatever we watch, we talk about it here.
Yep.
We watched When Marnie Was There, which is my favorite Ghibli movie and one of my favorite movies in general. And I also recently finished the book, the book that the movie was adapted from, by Joanne G. Robinson, When Marnie Was There, from like 1967 or something like that. It's an old British children's book, and it's great. But first of all, what was your impression of the movie? Like your first... You never seen it before, right?
I never saw it till this week, and it was really lovely. It was actually really nice. Particularly the backgrounds I was enjoying the most.
Yeah. That's kind of one of the biggest appeals to me, because I'm background boy.
Background boy.
And the funny thing is, I didn't get into Ghibli movies immediately after getting to anime, and I was kind of disliking the ones I saw for a long time. I didn't really like Spirited Away that much, and I enjoyed Princess Mononoke, but not so much the other movies that I saw. But then I just randomly discovered this Blu-ray in the library of When Marnie Was There, and I was like, oh, that's a Ghibli movie, I guess. I guess I can try to watch it. I don't really care or anything. But then that was like 2 or 3 years ago. And then I just put it in the TV, and I was bewitched. I was completely blown away by just the level of detail and the extreme sense of place that we have with that location. By the way, what is the movie even about?
What is this movie about?
I'm asking you, Asha. Answer me.
It's about a girl named Anna who had an asthma attack and was sent to the countryside to get some fresh air and just in her like emotional baggage. I don't know. Why am I being bad today? Okay, so she is adopted, and she's like insecure about whether or not like her parents actually care about her or not, and also just has very kind of messed up mindset, and it's kind of her she's opening up.
Straight up depressed.
Oh, yeah.
She's straight up in deep depression at like age 12 because of her background, and just because she feels completely unloved and puts herself down so much, and she can't really accept the fact that her foster parents might actually care about her. She just feels like she bothers anyone and she's a burden, and she is completely convinced that her parents sent her away to the countryside because she was a burden to them, and they just wanted to get rid of her. Some of this stuff I'm gonna say is maybe not spelled out in the movie, but I also read the book, and it's like a lot of internal monologue by Anna, and it's fascinating to get into her mindset, and it's really sad. It's really sad how she's not a Ghibli girl. She's very much not a Ghibli girl in that sense. She's like has real big emotional baggage. But yeah, she goes to to the countryside of Norfolk, or like a Japanese place that replaces it in the movie adaptation. And she lives with like relatives to her foster parents that live there. The Pegs, or Japanese name, whatever that is.
Oiwa.
Oiwa, basically the same thing. And they are just really, they're kind of too nice. They're very nice people, right? Simply. They're just like simple people that live in a beautiful little house. And just, they just let her do her thing. And they just say, yeah, go out play. If you are like back for dinner, it's all right. And Anna just starts exploring the little town and the state and the marshes, because it's like a little town at the sea, and it's so pretty. Just the level of folio art and detail in the animation of the backgrounds, and just how soft the grass feels and how it sounds when Anna walks like barefoot over the sand and through the water, and all the little birds, all the little seabirds, the sandpipers and stuff. And they are, Ghibli movies are full of great locations, but to me at least, many of them don't feel real in that way. Like, there's a lot of weird surrealism to like the bathhouse from Spirited Away. It doesn't. I'm not sold as much because it's not that. It's not that deep in that way. It's like a funny, obscure place.
Yeah, well, like in this movie, there's so much like little tiny details that just make it feel way more lived in. I think we both relate to that because we have kind of dense spaces and we like surrounding ourselves with stuff and things and details, little knickknacks.
Just the entire house by the Peg's house looks
the house.
Or Oiva's house.
Oh, just the shot of
it's so lived
her
in.
uncle's workshop. So good.
Yeah. I don't think... I guess it's an uncle. I'm not sure.
Well, it's her adoptive parents' cousin or siblings.
Maybe, yeah.
I don't know. So
I don't remember the
hence it's
exact
their
relation.
aunt and uncle.
Yeah. No, the house is awesome. And it's one of my favorite Ghibli houses actually, because it has all these like beechwood elements to it, and her uncle, is like a wood carver. Probably as a hobby, he just makes funny animals and owls out of wood, and they are all around the house. And it's super cute, and they have like a garden with like big tomatoes,
just huge, giant tomatoes that look.
They look so delicious.
Makes you want to have a tomato on its own, which is
and just. Like at my parents' place, we also have like a little glass house in the garden with tons of giant tomatoes, and so I relate to that, having tomatoes. Because the tomatoes you get at the supermarket are also kind of small, but when you grow them yourself, there are species of tomatoes that just grow into these giant, bulky monsters that are super big and heavy. And you can make like entire sauce out of one tomato.
Yeah. Oh man, the daughter's room, her uncle and aunt's daughter's old room is just the best room I've ever seen. So cute. It's got like all these little knickknacks. It's got kind of not Japanese style room. So green, and then it has all these like pops of pink and red. Perfect.
It's very not Japanese, and that's a thing that you see in a lot of Ghibli houses, because they really care about Western aesthetic as well. So a lot of these houses are kind of combinations of Western and Japanese architecture. Some of them are more Japanese, like Totoro House, for example. That has like all these like movable walls and stuff like that, and it's a little more open. But many others are very intricate and more Western styled. Also, this could have just taken place in Norfolk because it just looks like England. If you
It does not even look like Japan. Like Boonies Japan.
I mean, I'm sure I saw a documentary once where they went to these places on that one Japanese island that looks like this. So I'm just saying that it's similar because these kind of places exist around the world. It's kind of like little Tolkien rant here. When they made the Lord of the Rings movies, they decided, even though Tolkien was inspired by the European Alps, they decided to film it in New Zealand just because the New Zealand Alps look more like the Alps than the actual Alps. Because it's just a version of that landscape that's a little more untouched and pure than the touristy European Alps. But yeah, good location scouting.
Wonderful
Also,
location scouting.
That moment when Anna goes on the what do you call it, the balcony of that room for the first time, and just it zooms out and you hear the sea and you hear the wind in the grass and everything, and she's like, and that's the first time she drops her ordinary face and she's like, wow, this is a great place actually that I am now. Wanna talk about her ordinary face?
I do, because Anna like is the kind of person that's just she'll rather like hide all her feelings and emotions and just have this act of normality. And I don't know, I do that sometimes. I just like try very hard. I'm usually a pretty expressive person, and when I'm feeling like really happy or upset, it's obvious, but sometimes I have to just force this neutral, nothing's wrong face. So I really relate to Anna's desire to just hide all her feelings.
Yeah, because she's convinced that she can't get into social interaction with other people anyways. And so she just puts her that ordinary face to make everyone go away. And it's conveyed beautifully
just to
visually
keep
in the
them
movie.
apart from her.
Because she has kind of this like completely neutral deadpan expression that's not very usual for a Ghibli girl actually. Because most of the time they are more like in wonder or smiling or like more determined and sometimes she's just staring a little absent-mindedly almost. And that's part of the reason why they sent her away. It was not just because of the asthma attack, it's also just a general attitude and her depression that her foster parents and her caretaker noticed. And yeah, they basically hoped that she could make some friends in the summer and get her out of the school system for a while, because it obviously wasn't working for her. So she spends a few months on that little town. And we haven't even talked about the title character.
Oh
the
yeah,
Marnie.
Beautiful Marnie in her cute outfits. Oh my god. Big floofy dresses and bows. I just love that.
Like bows, and she has like this long. Okay, who is that even? So in that town, there's this house, this giant house that's on the other side of the marsh, and Anna has like a weird connection to that house. She feels like someone is watching her from that house, and she's she's like drawn to it, and she goes there and she sees that it's like an empty, like little broken down house, like a almost a ruin inside. But sometimes she sees lights at that house, and then she meets someone.
And it's Marnie, a blonde girl who's super whimsical and nice, and gets Anna to just open up, and yeah.
She's incredibly friendly and sweet, and because like in this like completely not buying Anna's ordinary face attitude, and just accomplishes to catch her off guard basically.
She like breaks right through her neutral face.
Yes, and it's great, and I think as she feels surreal, and she isn't quite there all the time, and she kind of disappears at weird times, and Anna herself is like not sure. It's really like there's the quote on the back of the book is, Anna and the girl eyed each other over in the half light. Are you real? Anna whispered at last. Yes. Are you? Said Marnie. And Anna kind of thinks that Marnie might just be a ghost, but at the same time she can touch her, and they do stuff together, and they become best friends.
It's so sweet.
And hang out. There's a lot of like lesbian undertones in those scenes.
I was saying that throughout the movie. It's just like they just like hold hands and you just saw the
very
image.
Cute together. It's the same thing in the book, by the way. It's also they talk about there's never been a girl that like the girl that I like. I never liked a girl as much as you, or stuff like that. And I'm really wondering what the intentions of the author were in this case, because the book is from 1967 or something, and I'm pretty sure like homosexuality was still either illegal or frowned upon a lot.
Yeah, but
time,
you like
even Great
if
Britain.
you could just write, oh, they're really good friends still.
Yeah,
without people assuming it. It's just like they're gal pals. They're just bros. They're just really close.
It's definitely that undertone there.
You can just slide it in, nobody will know.
I know that there was some backslash from the LGBTQ community after that movie came out, because in the end it turns out that it's not at all like that.
Yeah.
But we get to that. It's just they have a bunch of whimsical adventures, and apparently when Marnie is there, the house is lived in, and there's like parties, and her rich parents give like little parties there. They're like Europeans or something, and she brings Anna to one of these parties, and they dance in the moonlight and go around on that boat.
It's so sweet.
That fucking dance scene after the party when Marnie brings Anna to dance, and they sing that song that like good song. Good music, great scene. But yeah, actually, in that scene, there's a teaser because Marnie also talks to a boy at that party and dances with him, and Anna gets kind of jealous and puts up an ordinary face again, because she's like, who's that? I want Marnie for my own. No, who's that? I don't want to deal with more people. Really jealous immediately, and that's why Marnie has to cheer up after that with the dance. But she actually has a reason to be jealous, as it turns out in the end. Um, but yeah. Mm, Marnie is a beautiful little weird spirit, but she's also the fun thing is, not funny thing is, she is actually as tortured as Anna is, or she might just have it worse. Because in the beginning, Anna tells Marnie that she wishes she was her, because Marnie lives in that big beautiful house and has like parents, like blood related parents who love her, and has like all this freedom, and she can hang around in this town and make friends so easily. But throughout the movie, it gets revealed that Marnie herself is in a pretty dire situation because her parents care about her in some way, but at the same time they're just like rich business people who go away a lot and just leave her with these nurses, and they bully her. They straight up scare her or are violent to her. There's this there's this image of Marnie in the window and the nurse brushing her hair, and it's described in the book that um the nurse would do this every time Marnie did something wrong, and she would brush the hair really hard and also hit her with a hairbrush. So Marnie is a straight abuse victim,
Yeah.
and
Ugh.
and she tells, oh, sorry.
Oh, I was going to say it's just I guess for them it's like the grass is greener on the other side. The two of them have like bad situations and they wish they were the other,
Yeah,
and they find comfort in one another, and that's one of the best
it's
things
a great
about the movie.
great relationship in that sense, and uh, it's just at some point Marnie tells Anna that she thinks that Anna is lucky for having foster parents instead of real parents, because that way she can know that her parents really care about her because they took her on voluntarily instead of just having a child and needing to care about them. Uh,
Because they
but
chose to have her.
yeah, but Anna doesn't see it that way at all. Like, she's thankful, but at the same time she has this weird hang up about her parents receiving like government fundings for having her, which is a completely normal thing, but she's so insecure that she just assumes that they get paid for taking care of her. It's a weird hang up.
Yeah, but it's a believable one for a kid. She just wants to be loved unconditionally, but she doesn't believe anyone could love her like that, and that's the tragedy of it.
She even hates her parents and her grandmother at the start because they left her by dying.
Aww.
Her parents died like in a car accident, and her grandmother like a year later out of like sickness or grief. One of the most like visually striking metaphors in that movie is the inside and the outside that Marnie describes at the start of her movie. It's like literally the first sentence. You see this incredibly lively playground with like dozens of kids.
That was my favorite thing right from the start. It's just like a bajillion kids, and they're all doing different things. And the fact that someone had to animate that, it was amazing.
Like a whole team spent a few months on that
Just
per
little
scene.
detailed interactions between a bunch of kids in one shot. Whew.
Yeah. And the kids are all in the playground, and the playground is kind of circular, and Anna is on the outside drawing them, and she monologues about how everyone, how's like, wait, where's the quote? She knew perfectly well, through she could never have explained it to Mrs. Preston, that things like parties and best friends and going to tea with people were fine for everyone else, because everyone else was inside. inside some sort of invisible magic circle. But Anna herself was outside, and so these things had nothing to do with her. It was as simple as that. And I relate so hard because it's not like when you're kind of you don't even have to be bullied. Like Anna isn't like a bully victim directly, and I basically wasn't for most of my school years, but I still felt on the outside somehow. It's not even like I was like people were not liking me, but I was just convinced I wouldn't. And that's why I would put myself outside of that circle everyone else was part of and didn't know how to get in. And it was kind of just a fact.
It could be really hard to believe someone likes you in certain ways. And it's just being, your own self-perception of yourself can affect how you perceive how people act around you. And you can just constantly justify why they're acting a certain way. So with Anna, she just keeps convincing herself that everyone's just being nice out of obligation, or they don't actually care about her. They're doing it for their own benefit. There's no reason to care about her.
She feels completely unloved, and it's horrible.
Because she keeps putting herself in that mind state, and she needs to be pushed out of it by Marnie.
Yeah, that's why Marnie was there. So what has happened? There's this one scene where Anna has to go to this like Japanese festival thing, and that's a great example of the inside and the outside, because everyone is having fun and she's just hanging around them and trying to get along, but she can't relate. She's not the same. She's actually the same, but she feels like she isn't.
I feel that whenever you go to like an event or whatever, and you're just like watching people interact, and it's like, how do I even get in to this?
Yeah. And she also has this little outburst with that one girl who's kind of pushing forward. She's kind of pushy and trying to get stuff out of Anna, and she's like, and she calls her a fat pig.
That was really mean.
No, Anna can be really mean.
Yeah.
She's savage sometimes.
What a bully.
Horrible.
You know what's weird? Anna's uncle and aunt. The fact that she just stays out late, is like found on the street passed out, and then one night after the festival she comes back and her yukata's all messy, and they're just like, oh yep, that's just kids. They don't worry immediately.
I guess it's kind of like this attitude that people more on the rural countryside have of kids just hanging around outside the whole day. Be like,
they found her unconscious.
Well, she might have just fallen asleep.
Fallen asleep on the street?
Yeah.
No. It wasn't even like she fell asleep under a tree. She fell asleep, like, they found her side of the road. That's not okay.
That is not okay. Yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah. If it was anywhere else, that would be like one thing, but the side of the road is just terrifying.
Well, it's just because Anna has these weird illusions.
She's a little girl. They should be a bit more worried.
Yeah. No, and okay, so Marnie tells Anna about the abuse by her nurses, and so what Anna tells her that she has to like confront her fears and go to that silo thing where like the nurses scared her before, and it's like this really scary building on the hill of like, and it's like rainy and Marnie is really scared. But that's why it's one of these scenes where it kind of slips for the first time, where Marnie disappears and this boy appears and takes her with her, and Anna stays there alone. And this is kind of where everything breaks down. The whole Marnie dream kind of starts to fall down. Oh, actually, no. It was before that, because in a previous scene, the house, like new people move into that marsh house. Even though Asha, God, I said Asha instead of Anna. No. Even though Anna thought Marnie would live there. And there's like a new family moving in, and this girl, who's called Priscilla in English, finds this diary and shows it to Anna, and it's a diary by Marnie, but it's like 100 years old or something. Or like 50. And it tells all the stories of what Anna and Marnie have experienced together, but without mentioning Anna ever. And it's really weird.
Just a very... at first, like, trying to figure out what, like, Marnie is, and thinking Marnie's just a figment of Anna's imagination, but then it's just the realization of, oh, she was alive at some point.
She's a straight up ghost, is what you think
Is a
first.
Ghost. Old.
Like, just haunts the place. But that's not even real either. That's not even true either, because she isn't really a ghost. It's just... okay, by the way, spoilers for when Marnie was there if you haven't seen it.
You shouldn't be watching this if you don't want spoilers.
Yeah, but I think this is a big spoiler, because it turns out in the end that Marnie is Anna's grandmother. In like a extremely weird and convoluted way. Marnie just was telling her little granddaughter, when after her parents died, she was taking care of her for like a year when she was 5 or 4, and she was telling her all these stories of her childhood and of that marsh house and of that place, and showing her a photo of that marsh house, and telling her about these adventures that she had with her later husband, and these, going to that place, going to that little village by the seaside, just triggers all these memories in in Anna, and she starts basically putting herself into these situations and having weird daydreams that are kind of supernatural, but at the same time they could just be some kind of actually like psychic illusion thingy. Just because she has these stories in her head that are ingrained into her subconscious from a childhood, and everything she even experiences with Marnie is just something that her grandmother told me when she was small. And that's a pretty scary, crazy concept.
Like the idea that she's like losing her grip on reality and just going on these weird adventures by herself is legit creepy.
It's a little creepy, but at the same time, what the point of all of this I think, is that Marnie feels so unloved and so left by her parents and her grandmother that she didn't even realize that she had these stories from her grandmother inside her, and this place triggers all these memories. And so she basically reconnects to her grandmother through being at that place, and and learning how she cared about her actually, and that's what her relationship with Marnie actually is, realizing that she had someone who actually loved her in her life, and cared and just unconditionally cared about her, and that's what kind of makes her a more competent human being. And yeah, I love that scene, and I have to cry for the entire last 15 minutes of the movie every time I watch it.
Aww.
When it all gets revealed.
Cute.
It's just... And same with the book, actually. Yeah, books...
Crying while reading a book sounds hard.
Books barely make me cry. But this one did. It happened like 2 times, maybe, in my life. First time where Dobby the house elf died in Harry Potter.
Spoilers for Harry Potter.
Sorry! Come on, everyone
cares.
knows that.
Nobody cares. Don't worry.
Nobody cares about Harry Potter.
It's not like that.
Fuck you. Fuck you, J.K. Rowling. Haha. Yeah. But I care about this book a lot. And I recommend it highly, because even when you watch a movie, it's just a great extension, because you get inside Anna's head a lot more. And also, one of my favorite things about that book is that it's so British. It's like just the way, because it's a 60s book, and the dialogue is just written in like extreme accent most of the time.
Ooh, so you just read it with like a British accent in your head the whole time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially the Pegs, because they have like a Norfolk dialect, and they just use funny words. Like they call Anna Little Duck or Duck.
Little Duck.
Oh yeah, my duck. And Marnie constantly calls Anna a goose. You silly goose. So always on this weird outwear British stuff that is not from my American media consumption. I don't know that much. It's cool. It is really appealing. Oh, want to talk about Priscilla?
Oh yeah, she's so cute. That's not right. I don't think that's her name in Japanese, but
no,
the girl,
it isn't.
She has like big round glasses, and like if you see her room like in the Marsh house, and it's like pastel.
It's Marnie's old room, by the way. She's the girl that moves in newly.
So she has like this like cute house, like room with all these like pastels, and like she wears like a yellow and gray. She's so colorful and fun, and all her expressions are just great.
Yeah, she's a lot more of a Ghibli girl.
Yeah,
she
right down to the hair. Like her
of...
pigtails does the thing where it has like her hair moves with her emotion.
Yeah, it's kind of like when Kiki or May do it in Totoro. Actually reminds me of a little. She's like May, but a little older, and she's very convinced. She's so convinced that Anna is Marnie.
It's like, are you sure? Are you Marnie? Which I don't get why she thought that, because the diary is clearly way older.
Well, she's a child. She's a little younger than them. She's like 9 or something, I think. But they could actually connect over Marnie, because Priscilla has read the book, the diary, and finds out, and has also this connection to Marnie, and Anna has this connection through these weird magic memories, and that's why they become friends, and Anna actually finds a way.
Able to make a connection with a friend.
Able to actually connect and let her guard down, because she also just wants to find out more about Marnie, and that's why she doesn't really think about opening up to Priscilla at that point. She's just like, yeah, of course. By the way, in the book, the structure is way more clean cut, because the Priscilla and the Marnie scenes are kind of mixed in the movie, but in the book it's more like the first half is Marnie, and at some point Marnie disappears at that point at the silo, and or like the windmill in the book. Which I wonder why they changed that. Probably because there aren't any windmills in Japan, maybe? I don't know. Doesn't seem like a Japanese thing. But, yeah, and then Marnie disappears, and Anna is just really sick for a few days, because she gets really sick in that rain
Because she gets out in the rain, and if you're in the rain and an anime character, you will catch a cold.
Automatically. But she doesn't even just catch a cold, she's like, because she has asthma.
Yeah, so it's even worse.
She gets like a lung infection or something for a few weeks. And then she comes back and Marnie is gone, and instead this new family has moved in. And the new family has a lot more detail in the book, because there's like 5 siblings and like a toddler, and they all get a bunch of characterization and all befriend Anna. And she just gets friends with that entire family and also the parents. And it's really cute and wholesome. And it's wonderful that she gets invited into this warm place. And yeah, and one of the characters is Priscilla in the book, and she has this Marnie connection. And it's wonderful. I'm so happy for Anna, because she starts out at such a bad place and ends up in such a hopeful one.
I just relate to it a lot, because I was pretty closed off for a good while. And once I learned to open up, especially like online, I didn't know how to like talk to people. And once I got that in, I got to make way more connections with people, and that's beautiful and wonderful.
Especially that inside-outside circle exists even harder online, I think, sometimes.
Yeah.
And because
it's hard to just be like, hi, let's be friends.
Yeah, especially when everyone knows each other already. It's hard to get into like new Discord servers or just a community somewhere. Yeah. That can be really daunting. Same with me. I've been on the internet for a few years, and I've been on DeviantArt and Instagram for a whole while, but I never made any friends there until like I learned about other friends. Then I knew you, and I knew the other sketchy people, and that just brought me into this whole new circle.
I spent like over a decade on the internet, and I didn't know how to make internet friends until I met you.
Oh. Yeah, no, it's sometimes it's just hard, but it is hope for everyone.
Yeah, you just need that in, and then
you need it in, but often
you need to recognize it and be open to letting
really
yourself.
Often it's like an internal blockade that we have. Because we have that ordinary face on, and we don't want to accept that other people might like us, because we don't really like ourselves most of the time. And that's just have to get rid of that. And when you get rid of that, you're able to make connections. It's not that easy. It's a hard way, and it's a long process. And it's also not portrayed as like flippantly in this movie, because it's like she's there for a few months, and she has all these problems with like other kids from the town first, and then she learns about Anna, and then after the whole thing with Anna, she actually with Marnie, sorry, and then she actually finds a real friendship. And it was magic.
It was beautiful.
I want to talk a second about... sorry if this podcast is very me talking a lot, but I just...
No, this is what I wanted, man. I just want...
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought about this movie a lot because it's my favorite for all these reasons. But also, it's just a weird movie in itself, in the context of other Ghibli movies, because it's not very. It's kind of a more, in a way, more grounded and more about like psychological drama, and a lot less silly, cool fantasy adventures. I mean, other Ghibli movies have all that too, but this movie is really focused on this topic, and it's a British children's book, like multiple other Ghibli movies are adapted from children's books, like House Moving Castle, and
Ponyo.
I think
Vaguely.
Ponyo. Yeah, very vaguely. I like Kiki and Totoro. I think no, Totoro not, but Kiki at least is based on a Japanese children's book. But the existence of that book is also so weird because it was very popular in the 60s for a while, but it fell into a complete obscurity for most of the last few decades. And it only got re-released when the movie came out in English. So it wasn't even available for years. But somehow it just got very popular in Japan. It got big in Japan, and Miyazaki put it on his top 50 children's books list. So Miyazaki was a fan, and Hiromasa Yomabayashi, the director of this film, just picked it up and thought, "Whoa, that's a great." By the way, his first movie, Arrietty, is also a British children's book, The Borrowers. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, I've read it.
Yeah. Oh, you read it?
As
Cool.
a kid.
There's also, I think there's a weird, like, American or British live-action movie about The Borrowers that's fun that I used to watch at Christmas when I was little. And so I had this weird mind break when I found out that Arrietty is based on the same material. Arrietty is not that, especially in the way Arrietty portrays space and this whole location of that house, it's pretty similar to Marnie. There's a lot of great folio art and a lot of
good layouts and just
good
believable
layouts, good details. This one scene, okay, this is not about Arrietty, but there's this one scene in Arrietty where she steps out into that giant kitchen, and you hear the entire house making all these sounds and water dripping and like the wood gnarling and it's such a West space made only through the sound design. I love it. Anyways, there's a postscript in the book by the author's daughter where she talks about how her mother got inspired to write the book because she also, the author also had in her childhood like adventures at Norfolk, and she actually knew that house, like she actually saw that house somewhere in some small town and got inspired by that house to write that book, The Marsh House. And there's a little thing that I want to read from that postscript, which is, so the daughter tells, 30 years after the book was published, I heard how a Japanese man had recently arrived in the village looking for Little Overton. Little Overton is the name of the town in the book. Many years before, as a young teenager, he had read When Marnie Was There in Japanese. The book had made a great impression on him, and he very much wanted to see the place where the story was set. It was the end of September, and he had booked a tour from Japan to London for a few nights. He spoke very little English, and he had no idea where Little Overton was. All he had was a copy of the book and his guide. So he took the train to King's Lynn, as Anna had done, and finally caught the bus that goes along the coast. The bus was full of people who were all very kind, but no one knew where Little Overton was. At each stop, the passengers got off until he was the only person left. He began to get rather anxious. Then the bus turned the corner and he saw the windmill. The windmill, which is like the silo in the book. Stop, stop, he said. This must be it. And he leapt out of the bus. But the village wasn't Little Overton. It was Burnham Overy. And this Japanese man just discovered this little town that inspired the book. And it's really funny to me that specifically, apparently, this book got really popular in Japan because there's no German translation or anything. Nobody knows it here. But it got really popular in Japan, and I can see why, because a lot of Japanese pop culture is about like otaku who are kind of on the outside and have a hard time relating to people. I see why it would resonate with the Japanese audience. And yeah. And then, like, some 12 years later, they got news that there would be like a adaptation by Studio Ghibli. And it doesn't say who that Japanese man was, because it's only a story that the author's daughter heard. But in my head, it is just Yomibayashi who went to that town. I can't prove it.
I believe it.
So yeah, that was when Marnie was there. My favorite Ghibli, for all the reasons that I explained.
It has the best houses. It has the most interesting. I would say Anna is like the most deep main girl, Ghibli girl, maybe? I don't know. But I feel
She's
like
most interesting to me because most
Yeah.
Ghibli girls are very similar.
yeah.
It's not. I mean, they have unique problems. Like Kiki,
Yeah.
for instance, has all these hang-ups too. But Anna is way more about that and a little more grounded.
Yeah. That's why she's the best.
Yeah. Also, Ghibli house ranking. What's your favorite Ghibli house?
I feel like it's
Or
these
what-
houses. He's both
These two.
the Marsh house and Anna's
the Pax house.
yeah.
Simon Pegg. Okay, good Ghibli houses. One of my favorite Ghibli houses is Kiki's parents' house, but you only see it for a second in that movie
I like
because
the
Kiki moves out immediately.
I like the one part where they had like bells on the trees, so when
Yeah.
Kiki hits the trees, they know. They're like, "Oh shit, she hit the tree again."
But that whole house is completely grown over with ivy, and it has all these plants inside because the
You
mother
just
is
like
also like a plant
details.
witch.
You're just a detailed boy.
No, you like specific details that make a
Specific
place
detail boy.
feel like lively. And other great Ghibli. I'm not the biggest fan of Totoro House, as I told you before, because
It's
just
just a
moved
big
in.
Japanese house, but I do like I remember the bath in that being cute.
Oh yeah, no yeah, the bath is great.
Oh,
Bathroom is
oh,
awesome.
Ponyo, Webo Ponyo, tiny little house on thing.
Ponyo is up there. Ponyo is up there,
Pretty
definitely. Ponyo just appears through like the bright, color splotches and a lot less detail, I would say, but it just fills me with joy, anyways. Ariete House, amazing, fucking amazing, and Ariete Garden. The garden in Ariete is one of my favorite Ghibli gardens. God damn it. What else is there? Porco Rosso's little island, which is basically just his house.
I'm just thinking
That's
the
like-
workshop for the airplane.
Yeah, but it's less of a house.
Yeah, but I like it.
I just like this little space that he has on that island, a little beach where you can
Does
hide
this plane
and
count as a
chill.
house?
Yeah, it
Sure.
does.
Then it's the best. For sure.
But yeah,
Still vote for
Ghibli.
when Marnie when Marnie was there, Jesus Christ, is best houses.
Yeah.
Hands down.
Hands down, hands up, and clap. Great. Great movie.
Yes.
So, any closing words, or shall we end?
We shall end then.
We should. Nice. Everyone, thanks for listening. If you made it that far, please watch the movie if you haven't yet. Get a book. It's like $7 on Amazon if you like live in a location where we sell it. And it's great. There's probably also an audiobook somewhere. I hope so.
Just find it. It's an old book. It probably has an audiobook for free on YouTube.
Yeah. Not sure about that. It's not quite that popular anymore, but it might be. Just look it up, and read it, and be thankful that I recommended it. Also, subscribe to Asha AM for fun anime takes, and also the Pillowfort podcast that comes out here, where we just talk about everything that we watch together. By the way, we have to talk about Eisuken when it's done, right?
Yes.
Because we've been watching Eisuken weekly, and it's like episode 7 or 8 probably now.
Yeah.
I don't remember. It only has 12 episodes, so in a few weeks we can talk about that whole season. Look forward to that, and we also want to talk about other stuff. I was NeverPaint, and goodbye.
I'm Asha AM, and bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Bye.